All right, so let's dive right into what we're going to be discussing today as far as the journey to greatness, the journey to just being a better you, living your life successfully, with various levels to that for different people, different strokes for different folks, as they say. But so what we're going to talk about, and again, this is key. For those of y'all don't know. So the first thing to just reinventing yourself is just understanding and knowing when you are in that position in your life, and it can come to you at any point in your life, as youth, as an older person, middle age, after college, in college, never went to school, drop, whatever. So just basically being in tune with knowing when you're ready to reach another level of elevation, or when something just doesn't fit right. And we'll talk about using your intuition and all that good stuff, learning how to meditate and all that stuff down the line. There'll be other videos for that. But so what I like to tell people is the first thing is learning a self way of thinking, kind of like in a selfish mode. Like everything that you do must first be basically ignited by the word self. And so that means knowing yourself, like the good and the bad, and especially the bad, being acknowledging your flaws, acknowledging the things that you can work on, improve upon, because there's room for improvement until we leave this earth. So all of that, some of the hangups and things that we know that we have that we don't want to let go and we don't want to put down, well, that's going to stop you from basically reinventing yourself. Whether it's food, relationships, setting boundaries, bad habits with money, whatever. If you know you have these things about you, argumentative, problematic, whatever you're or not, or maybe not speaking up enough, the things that you hold on to, and we'll talk about comfort zones, those are the things that are most detrimental to you. So learning, basically the first step to that is seeking elevation, is to learn basically a self way of thinking. And that is taking self-inventory, being self-aware, self-actualization, doing self-care. All of these things are things you have to incorporate into your lifestyle. Being self-conscious in a good and bad way. Self-sabotage, and learn how to not do that. Selfishness, learning how to not be too much of that, but also learning how to have some of that. So it's all about balance. And selflessness, basically learning how to not be as selfless, but also be selfless. Again, goes back to balance. Everything that we discuss here will be talking about basically learning how to reinvent yourself. But when you're reinventing yourself, you're basically looking at a big picture. You could do mapping. There's a bunch of different things and different tools that you could utilize, things that you can come up with on your own. For those of you that don't know, that I am a licensed clinical social work associate, master social work is my formal background. I'm not necessarily practicing right now, but a lot of these things that I know work, that I've utilized for clients, I've utilized for myself. So I'm just not pulling this information just out of the air. These are things that I have experienced. These are tools and things that I use, on a daily basis that really got me out of a slump. And so first things first is realizing when you are at the point of, okay, I need to do something with myself. Either it could come by way of depression, it could come by way of a situation, it could be a physical thing, it could be a lot of different things that basically can probe you to say, okay, I want to do different, or I want to do better. And learning what those things are. Now, for as far as depression, I'm not saying, having a mental health diagnosis. That's another subject for another day, which you would need to basically, I tell everybody, get into some therapy, especially when you're ready to elevate. Talk to someone else, talk to a neutral body. Stop going to your family and friends, because most of your ideals and your thoughts and processes came from them. So stop going to them about your problems, issues, and concerns. Go to an outside source, someone else that maybe can understand you, someone that has a neutral face to you. They only know what you tell them, and they can give you feedback on that. So I definitely encourage people to get into some type of therapy, some type of coaching, some type of outlet, a group, or whatever. As I tell people, if you're the only one that's always pouring over into someone else's cup, then who's supposed to pour back over into your cup? So again, that's another thing. When you have people or families or friends or groups or relationships or jobs that are just too enmeshed, that can be a big problem. So that's another thing. Learning how to cut ties, learning how to cut cords, learning how to get rid of things that do not serve you. And that could be your own health habits. That could be food. That could be dress. That could be what you look at on TV, Netflix. That could be music. You have to learn how to cut things that don't serve you well. That's another big key to reinventing yourself to greatness. Is basically learning that whatever hasn't been serving you, to learn how to cut it, not hold on to it and think that something different is going to happen, because it's not. So it's all about you. Working on you is the best thing that you can do to elevate, no matter what anyone else around you is doing. Doesn't matter if he listening, she listening, your wife listening, your husband, your dog, your cat, your mom. None of that matters. What matters is how aware are you of yourself, because you can't make other people be different. They're just going to be how they are. But you can modify your own behavior relevant to theirs. I tell people all the time, if you feel smothered, it is time for you to go. Either move, change up how you communicate, set boundaries. That's another indicator that the universe and that God is basically putting things in front of you and things are shifting. It's just like animals, lower level animals. For instance, birds. Birds fly south when it gets cold in the north. They don't stay there to try to wait it out and see what's good. No, they instinctively fly south. They don't ask questions. They don't go back and forth, because they know instinctively if they stay in the north, they're not going to survive. And if they do survive, it's going to be a really thin line between that and death. So what do? They fly south. They stay abundant. They get what they need. They be a bird. So that's the same thing that we have to do as humans, is understand and know when instinctively and intuitively we need to make a shift or a change. There's signs, there's signals, there's all different sorts of things that come at us that we tend to ignore humanly. We just ignore it because for whatever reasons, it's been ingrained in us traditionally, might be culturally, might be a bunch of different reasons why we ignore those things. But once you get into the pattern of self-way thinking and learning yourself, releasing generational ignorance, and all cultures have it. We are ignorant to certain things just because of culture. Doesn't make it bad. It just means we're ignorant, meaning we don't know. But getting rid of those kind of engineered things that we've been taught or that we thought was something, and then you look around, it's like, and then it was causing you misery, not realizing why. And there's different literature out here on learning how to basically reinvent and reevaluate yourself. And as I have some of those readings and things, I'll post some of those links for you to basically work on. But again, having a self way of thinking, that is the number one key to learning how to reinvent yourself, reinvent your thinking. It's your thinking that you have to basically modify how you think about everything, not just one or two things, but everything. You have to put all that stuff in. Self-inventory, meaning taking inventory of yourself daily, all day. Like, for instance, I take inventory of myself. Weight was an issue for me. That's something that, like, okay, I don't want to have a certain amount of weight on me or whatever. So whatever that thing is, it could be finance, it could be relationships. I had someone ask me the other day, why do I keep getting all these guys that are just this way or that way or this way? Well, guess what? It's not the guys. They're being who they are, regardless. If they have bad character flaws, if they're not the most personable people, maybe they're abusive, whatever, they're being them. It's you. You're carrying the energy. You're releasing the energy out into the universe. You allow it. You're showing this to this particular type of person, and you basically magnetizing it. We're energy. So it's you giving something off. And so the only way to counter that is to learn what you're doing, what you're giving off, how you're giving it off, and learning how to counter that. That's where that self-actualization comes in, that self-awareness, and being understanding and being okay with knowing, hey, I have this thing about me that I don't like because this thing is causing me to magnetize these type of people. So learning how to do that, stop self-sabotaging, learn how to do, we'll talk about self-sabotage one day. I may do a video just on how you basically self-sabotage yourself, don't even know you're doing it. And again, it kind of does go back to some of those cultural norms and folk ways and traditions or general, ignorance ignorance, generational ignorance that we've been taught and we don't know because we see somebody else do it, our grandma, great grandma, aunties, uncles, cousins, whatever. It's just like, okay, so you've been picking up on those things, not realizing that it was hurting you, and you may be the one person in your family to change that track. So we'll talk about that too. And it's learning how to set boundaries, learning to set your own interpersonal boundaries. We'll talk about personal versus interpersonal. Personal means the things that are happening around you that you're connected to, maybe like your kids or your job or, whatever. Those are personal things that you do, but it also includes other entities or other people or what have you. But interpersonal is you only by yourself. That is interpersonal. And your interpersonal portion of you is the most important because that is the part that you have to manipulate, that you have to basically build up, tear down, put pieces back, glue back together, tack. That's what you have to do in order to release, to go back into the world and begin to create different personal things to happen in your life as you reinvent yourself, as you grow, as you, do this journey and go from there. So, learning to ground yourself. Meditation is another thing that I tell people to, possibly get into, whether you're religious or spiritual or what have you. You may have a religious background. You may have a spiritual background. You may not have any background, but learning how to basically connect and ground yourself to what we all know is that we're energy. A good way to do that is do meditation, through readings, through a bunch of different avenues. Do things differently than what you have been doing, and that in and of itself allows you to begin to ground yourself so that you can see things differently, so that you can basically see what is coming at you, so you can open your intuition, heighten your intuition, that third eye, pay attention and not be in this fog that everyone else is in. And as you begin to meditate, you'll see that out in the world. You're literally just go to the grocery store and you will see yourself here, and then everyone else is kind of like in this fog. But that comes over time. That comes with learning how to meditate, learning how to ground yourself, learning how to set boundaries and that sort of thing. It'll begin to come to you. And also another thing that I tell people a lot is learning how to get away from a scripted life. Most of the things that we do as people, we learned it. It's learned behavior. But where do we learn it from? Even our traditional folk ways, even our cultural ways, even our family dynamics and how our perspective and viewpoints, not that they're bad or they're all bad, but they could be a hindrance. What works for one may not work for the other. So learning how to get away from a scripted way of living, learning how to get away from what someone else may have already written for you or have already put out there for you, just kind of like following along, you following this script, or you kind of like, if you like know how to read sheet music like me, you just kind of following the song or whatever. You're like, no, I really want to rewrite this song, whatever. So learning how to get away from that. Just because your whole family lives in Chicago or your whole family lived in this area and this is what they've been doing, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's for you. Your family was a vessel to earth, so you have to decide that whether or not what they're doing fits you interpersonally. So as you begin to elevate and as you begin to grow, you'll begin to see those things. Those things will become very vivid. It'll be very bright. It'll be like, okay, this just doesn't fit. Like, I don't want to work at the family restaurant. Like, this is not what I want to do. I want to be a photographer. I want to be a model, or, I want to, I don't know, own, a construction, whatever it is you want. I want to travel around the world. Maybe you just want to do that. So learning how to get away from a scripted way of living or a designed or engineered way of living that was already put out there by another group of people or whatever the case may be. And if you don't do this thing, then there's something quirky about you. But actually, no, it's something quirky about them because everybody's like following suit and it just doesn't fit well with your spirit. That is another way to know that you are ready to embark upon elevation and reinventing yourself. It's like no matter what you're doing, nothing is fitting, nothing's working, nothing's sticking, nobody's understanding, and it's just kind of like you you in this box and like nobody gets it. So that is another indicator that, okay, it's time to elevate. It's time to move forward. Another indication is that you will have what we consider in the spiritual world dark night of the soul or tower moments where things seem like they're crashing down around you. Everything's falling down around you. This is happening, that is happening. So now it's time to shift. It's time for you to shift that energy space that you're in. All of those are just key indicators. And just learning how to get away from that stuff and basically follow your gut. As you continue to meditate, as you continue to engage in things that you wouldn't have normally, that's another thing that I tell people. Start doing things that you would not normally do. If you take the same route to work every single day, just for whatever reasons, I don't know why you take that route. I don't know why my nose ring wants to play today. But anyways, if you take the same route to work every day for whatever, whether it's convenience, I don't know. Stop doing that. Take a different route one day. Leave early. Just so you can take a different route one day and see what else happens on that route. That's another way to get yourself in the loop of reinventing and redesigning and retraining your brain and retraining your thinking. Is to do something differently or do something out of your comfort zone. Do small, minute things. And don't just jump out here, which you can if you're a risk taker. But again, don't just do things impulsively, of course. And then sometimes it might be okay because you may not be an impulsive person. You may be a very, very, strategic, because I'm kind of a strategic person. So there's some things that I will do spontaneous, impulsively, but that's not always good if you do it the wrong way. So, but just do things differently. It could be one thing, whatever your routine. If you're a routine person, some people are routine people. I hate routines. So being that I hate routines, I have to incorporate routines. And that's where balance comes in at. So do the things that you normally wouldn't do or the things that cause you so much comfort. Get out of that comfort. And that will begin to change your thinking. That will begin to bring other things to you. That will help you begin to magnetize and elevate other aspects of your life. But if you stay stuck to this script and you stay in this thing, then whatever you thinking that you desire is not going to come to you because you haven't done anything to shift that energy space. You haven't done anything to pull that to you. So again, go back to doing things that you would not normally do. If it's something you kind of desire to do, but you're like, because you're so involved in this scripted life and you're miserable, do that one thing that you wouldn't normally do. If you normally don't strike up a conversation with someone because that's just not your personality or you're just not comfortable with it, strike up a conversation. See where it leads you. I mean, it could be simple. It could be in a grocery store. You can look at someone's groceries in front of you and say, is that good? Do you like, how does that taste? I may try it. You may not even try it. It's just you getting confident about being able to shift your thinking, about getting out of those comfort zones, about becoming self-actual, about using, that self way of thinking and, being more conscious of self, knowing that you have those things about you. If you normally, if you're normally a person that comes home and you sit down and you kick your feet up and you turn on the TV and you look at a movie, that's the first thing you do. You get home, you sit down, whatever. How about stop doing that? Come in the house and do something else. Come in the house and just start cleaning up. Don't even sit down. Just start cleaning up. Start sweeping or mopping or clean the bathroom. Like, don't even pick up the remote. Just sit down. So just those little small, minute things will begin to help you see how to magnetize and how to bring more abundance, more prosperity, more things that you want to see shift and change in your life, basically getting out of those comfort zones. So the main key things that I want you all to take away from this video today is knowing when it's time to reinvent yourself and elevate. And it's normally a situation, physical, emotional, mental. It could be a lot of different variables involved or signs. Again, it could be interpersonal where you just feel some type of way, or you feel bad, or everything around you is just stuck or stagnant or whatever the case may be. If you're experiencing any type of other symptoms like clinical depression or anything like that, of course, There's other resources out here. There's mental health hotlines. There's suicide hotlines. There's a lot of different resources out here, and I will start posting some of those links in my description. But again, like I said, what I want you all to take away from this video is knowing when it's time for you to elevate and being okay with it. And again, no one around you is really going to understand it, and it's not for them, it's for you. And again, it might take some of you all to move away from family. It might take some of you all to go ahead and pronounce your boundaries, you know. So being in a self way of thinking. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to my YouTube channel. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. If you know someone that could benefit from this, share this with them. Go ahead and start subscribing. And again, like I said, as I grow, you grow. Let's get great. Let's be great. Thanks for watching Kiki's Journey to Greatness.